All right, the next category of Greek people that we're going to learn about are philosophers. So I put philosophy in orange because that's a contribution, that the Greeks were the first people to be deep thinkers and kind of come up with ideas about what ifs and, just thinking deeply about a certain idea or information. So there are three Greek philosophers, and the word philosopher means someone that loves wisdom. The first one is Socrates. Now, Socrates, um, really, his main question was what is the purpose of life, and he always questioned lots of things. So there's a thing called the Socratic method, which is a question and answer approach, and that he wants you to use reasoning, not emotions, to come up with um, a purpose. We read about the trial of Socrates, and he was put on trial mostly because he was considered to be kind of a crazy person because he was thinking outside the box. And he decided that he was going to drink some hemlock or poison instead of, going about the punishments that he got. Now, Socrates, he was born in Athens around 469 BC. He died in 399 BC, again by drinking hemlock or poison. He was seeking the truth and knowledge, and he asks a lot of questions called the Socratic method. He would typically walk through the streets of Athens teaching people how to think about the world. A lot of people followed him, but he also got a lot of enemies, which is why he was put on trial, because the government thought that his teachings were very dangerous because you're going to be a thinker. He questioned everything about how the government was running, about religious ideas, about nature and your place in the world. So in 300 BC, he was charged by the government by corrupting youth and denying the Greek gods. So even on his trial, he just said, "Hey, I don't deserve this." And so he decided to drink poison. And even after his death, people in Athens realized that they may have made a mistake, and they honored Socrates by creating a bronze statue of him. Next one is Plato. And Plato most famously started a school called the Academy. And he was the one that would follow Socrates around and actually wrote down what Socrates had to say. Socrates never wrote any of his philosophies down. He just talked out loud. And so Plato was kind of his, understudy, if you will, and he wrote those things down. Now, Plato was born in 429 BC, and he died peacefully in bed. There was no drinking poison or anything in 347 BC. And again, he was a student of Socrates, and he also had a lot of writings. Um, he didn't really like democracy because he didn't think that ordinary people could really be good leaders. And of course, the good leaders were the wealthy. And he was a leader himself after the Peloponnesian War. And he focused basically on society and reasoning. So he had a lot of ambition to talk about politics. And then he devoted his life to knowledge and learning after Socrates died. He returned to Athens and created this academy. It's a very famous school, and so very wealthy Greeks and non-Greeks would go to this school to be educated. So he wrote a book called The Republics, and that's kind of what he did. The last philosopher was Aristotle, and Aristotle was one of the best students at the academy, which was created by Plato, and he also most famously tutored Alexander the Great, who was not a Greek but was educated by the Greeks, so he was kind of Greek-like. Alexander the Great, of course, conquered Greece and Persia and parts of India, and had a huge empire under his helm. Aristotle created the scientific method. He was born in Greece in 384 BC. He died in 322 BC. He studied biology, physics, medicine, poetry, government, literature, and many other subjects. And in biology, he was one of the first to classify living things by their similar traits. Now, my hook or my mnemonic to remember the three philosophers is I just remember the word spa. So that acronym relates to Socrates, the S, Plato, the P, and Aristotle, the A. So if you can remember SPA goes with philosophers, you can remember these three people for the test.